Hello, I hope you're doing fine, and it is my pleasure to once again welcome you to our channel, which goes by the name of Mr. Tinga Tinga Literature TV. And today let us together, you and me, pass through the analysis of the play of The Dilemma of a Ghost, the play which was written by Ama Ata Aidoo, one among the very few notorious and female writers from Africa. So the play, if you have not gotten the chance to read it, I can just tell you that the general theme of the play, it is that it shows a conflict between new generation and old generation. I have a friend of mine who likes to use the vocabularies that the play shows conflict between the modernists and the conservatives. You know, the modernists are the people who are ready to accept the changes, and the conservatives are those people who are still holding back the African traditions the way they are. So all of them, those which are good and those which are bad, they are still preserving them, so we call them conservatives. Jumping in direct to the analysis of the book, let me use some minutes to give you a general brief of the book. And let me start by telling you that the story of this play has been centered to the main character, who is known as Ato. Ato, we are told that he is a Ghanaian graduate who has completed his studies in North America, and on his way back to Africa, he returned with a sophisticated black American wife who shall be known as Eulalie. This thing of Ato marrying first without the consent to his family, and also marrying an American wife who has been brought into a different culture from his, brought about very many conflicts in this book, and I can say it is a very main cause of all the suspense in this book. So you can see on our introductory part of the play, that is a prelude, the setting of the play, it is in America, whereby Ato is preparing himself with his wife to travel back to Africa, and his wife is eager to know whether his people will love her that much as they do love Ato. And you can see at the very particular part of the story, Ato assures his wife that his people will love her and they shall create a paradise in their marriage, since it is not the problem even if they postponed, or maybe they don't start having children very soon. So that you can see under that circumstance, this couple is very optimistic of living a happy life, and also they are very optimistic of living in a very happy marriage. But if you pass through the book, you shall learn that these hopes are then get vanished because of some issues which arise. Because if you go to the second part of the story, that contains the 5 acts of the play, because the first part of the play contains a prelude, and the second part of this play contains all other acts of the play, and the play has a total of 5 acts. So if you go to the Act 1, you shall see that the family really get confused because of Ato marrying without their consent, and also marrying a black American wife. So they see like Ato has brought a disgrace to the family, but also has surpassed, has maybe looked down upon his traditions, because he had to get back to home, and the family had to decide whom he had married. So you can see in Act 1, Esicom, that is Ato's mother, had already prepared a bride price for her son, so that he could marry soon after his arrival. And you can see from Act 1 there is that conflict arise, and also on Act 2 you can see also Eulalie is on dilemma whether the decision of coming to Africa was right to take or not, and she thinks what would her mother say if she would be alive. So it is through monologue which it is through Soliloquy, where we know that this Eulalie Yauson is an orphan. She don't have any parents now. So on Act 2, you can see that she is on a dilemma whether the actions she had taken were right or not. And also you can see that in Act 3 the conflicts are continuing to be risen, and there is 6 months later from the Act 2. The Act 2 was 14 days later from Act 1. So you can see that the playwright has used the 4-flash technique. So 6 months later, it is Act 3, where you can see Ato has came to the village again to visit his relatives as he is working at town, and so they went with his wife, that is Eulalie. On their return, Esicon, that is Ato's mother, had brought them some snails, and that is among African traditional foods which are being eaten there at Ghana. And you can see that for not being used for such kind of foods, Eulalie threw the snails away. That thing confuses Ato's mother, that is Esicon, and she complains a lot to Ato that his wife shall not be doing such kind of childish things. And when Ato tries to defend his wife that he don't know such kind of traditions, his mother insists that he had been, that is Ato, had been brought to the very same traditions, and let him not look upon the traditions which has risen him through all his life. So later on, you see when Sir Ato sleep at afternoon, he dreamed about himself when he was young, singing a song of the dilemma of a ghost. The dilemma of a ghost, the ghost which was at the junction, stretching. You know, ghosts don't walk at the road. They are floating on the air, so not knowing where to go, whether to Elmina or at the Cape Coast. And you can see that this ghost is a symbolical ghost because it represents or symbolizes Ato dilemma of not knowing whether to side with his wife, who is Western culture oriented, or his relatives, and specifically his mother, who is an African traditionalist. Again, if you go to the other part of the story, that is Act 4, you can see that Ato's family had prepared themselves to do some ritual for Eulalie, so that Eulalie may bear a child. You see, it has been more than 13 months since Ato has arrived in Africa, but they haven't gotten any kid, him with Eulalie. And you see in Act 2, Eulalie proposed that they should have children, but Ato, under the influence of jealous, he refused to have children, saying that Eulalie would concentrate her love to the children and forget about Ato. So on Act 4, Ato's family comes so as to do some rituals to Eulalie, as they wanted to wash Eulalie's stomach with some herbs so that she can bear children, but Eulalie turned that action down and refused to do so. The thing which also consolidated the all other conflicts which still exist from Act 1. And it is in this very same Act where Petu, that is Ato's elder uncle, tells him that they know about They know about abusive behaviors of his wife, drinking so much, smoking so much, being a drunkard, as she drinks heavy drinks like as men does. You see, she is not acting like a woman. So Petru tells them that they see that his wife is not normal and she is not a respectful woman. But so on, Ato continues siding with his wife, or maybe we can say continue to defend his wife. In Act 5, you can see that Eulalie also is very tired of the African traditions of which she had failed to follow upon, and she is not ready to be forced to practice any African tradition, because in Act 5 Ato's family has a Thanksgiving service of Ato's cousin who had died the year before, and Eulalie refuses to go with Ato, and you can see it is very early in the morning. Eulalie had already drinking a lot of alcohol, and she was already drunk. So when they enter into arguments, Ato was trying to force Eulalie to live as how Africans do, but Eulalie tried to mock Ato that he is trying to preach to Eulalie, and under that circumstance, you see they later on get into a fight, and Ato slapped Eulalie, the action which caused Eulalie to leave without saying where she's going, and Ato spent almost the whole day looking for Eulalie, but Eulalie was nowhere to be found. But in the evening, when Ato went to report to Esicom, his mother, that he is not seeing Eulalie, Esicom asked, "What have you done to her?" So Ato told her that she had insulted his relatives, and so he slapped her. By surprise, as Ato was thinking that Eulalie was making mistakes, Esicom sided with Eulalie and blamed Ato for not teaching Eulalie slowly about how to behave when in Africa. So it turns out that Eulalie returns on the moment when Ato was speaking to his mother, and his mother embraced Eulalie and helped her to get inside the house. Ato remained with a very total confusion whether what he was doing was wrong or what, and what is the next step, because he don't understand all the things which are going on, because he fails to side where, or maybe to understand the situation. So Ato remains with a dilemma, and also the sound comes into his head, singing that dilemma song. Where should I go? Shall I go to Cape Coast? Shall I go to Elmina? I can't tell. Shall I? I can't tell. I can't tell. I can't tell. And the play ends there. So if you jump direct to the title of the play, one can tell you that the dilemma of a ghost. Dilemma, it is a situation whereby one is in a very difficult situation of choosing one among the things of equal importance. So you might have 3 or 2 things with equal importance, and you have to choose only one, and that you be in a dilemma. And a ghost is a spirit of a dead person which is believed to exist but cannot be sensed with our 5 sensory organs. So you can see it is an imaginative thing. So generally we can say that the title of the play, Dilemma of a Ghost, it means that a confusing choice making situation where the spirit of a dead person it is in. So let us see in the book, as we have already passed through the summary of the book, is there any ghost so far, or maybe this ghost symbolizes whom in this play? If you dig deeper into the play, you can see, yes, there are some dilemmas, but this ghost is symbolically present Ato's dilemma or not understanding whom to side with. You can see Ato is at the junction, not knowing to side with the modernists or maybe to side with the conservatism. You see Ato has already been exposed to both culture, Western culture and African tradition culture, and he is not onto ability to choose which side now he might side with, so as his life can continue be peacefully. So you can see in the book, if you go, there is a song in Act 3 whereby the Ato dreams when he sleeps at noon, he dreams about a boy who is singing a song of the dilemma of a ghost, and that song goes like, one early morning when the moon was up shining at the sun, I went to Elmina Junction, and there I saw a rich ghost going up and down, singing to himself, shall I go to Elmina or to Cape Coast? So I don't know. That is page 28 where this song is being sung, and that that wretched ghost has torn the clothes, floating on the air, don't know where to go, whether to Cape Coast or to Elmina. That thing is a first dilemma we see, and it is a symbolic dilemma because that ghost, it surely presents Ato's dilemma, whether to side with his wife or to side with his relatives. But we have another dilemma. It is Ato's family dilemma of not knowing whether to decide that choices which are made with their son is correct or not. You can see from the very first act, Ato's family is in dilemma whether to accept Ato's ways, new ways of living or not. And again, in the book in Act 2, you can see Eulalie, through a soliloquy, she is in a dilemma whether to understand or maybe whether to perceive the decision of coming to Africa were positive decisions or were not positive decisions. So you can see we have those three basic dilemmas in our play. But also I can tell you that for example, if you need 4 or more points, for example, dilemma of a ghost may stand alone, Ato's dilemma, whom to side with, especially which is seen in page 5 in Act 5, can stand alone. And again, Ato's family dilemma can stand alone, and at last Eulalie's dilemma can stand alone. That is about the title of the book, and please allow me to jump in now into the other part, that is setting. Setting of the book has been divided into 2 parts, that is American setting and African setting, whereby American setting is seen in a first part of our play, whereby our play has 2 parts. So the first part of our play, that is a prelude, that's an introductory part of the play, a prelude, that it is in America. Ato and his wife are in America preparing to go to Africa. So that is the first setting. And the second setting, it is in Africa, it is in African country, and specifically in Ghana country, and that is particularly where the whole play takes place. You can see other supportive points to support the environments of Africa. For example, issues of African traditions like African tradition foods, African traditional marriages, even sports beating. It is in African traditions. You see, out of Africa, people are not beating their wife that much regularly as we do in Africa. When you jump into styles and techniques in the book, you can see that a playwright, that is Ama Ata Aidoo, one among the very notorious African writers, has used very many different techniques. And before we enter into techniques, please, I beg you to hit a subscribe button as a gesture of support to what we are doing. You will be doing a very good thing, positive thing, supportive thing to me, more than giving money, just to hit that subscribe button. And if you shall be blessed, you can like also this video. When it goes to styles, now I must start with dialogue. Dialogue is conversation between characters, and you see this is a dominant technique which has been used in this book. As you can see, all the time the characters are on dialogue, except very few times when characters are speaking alone. And there we get the second technique, that is soliloquy. Soliloquy can be seen in page 23 and 24. At the very first sight, you can see Eulalie is speaking by herself, thinking whether coming to Africa was right decision or not. And later on, we see that she is proud of coming back to Africa, where it is her origin. And there we get the theme of double identification. She is an American person, but she recognized that she is originally from Africa. That is about soliloquy. And if we go much deeper, we can see there is a technique of flash forward. As you can see, from the first act to second act, the playwright jumps 14 days. You know, for flash is the skipping of the unnecessary events on a story, and so as to put more emphasis on more interesting events or parts of the story. So the playwright has used the 4 flash. You can see from Act 1 to Act 2, the playwright jumps 14 days. So when you go to Act 2, you see the playwright says 14 days later. And again, if you go to Act 3 from Act 2, you see when you start to read Act 3, the play says 6 months later. And again, it is done the same when you go from Act 3 to Act 4. You shall be again for flashed up to 6 months. So for flash is among the dominant techniques which has been used in this book. But another technique, it is point of view, whereby the dominant point of view in the story, it is first person point of view, whereby characters are the one who are presenting the story. And on some very few moments, you can see there is a use of third person point of view, and this is especially on giving stage directions. Stage directions tells us about the mood of the characters, the setting of the stage. So there the playwright uses third person point of view so as to put those things clear. And also you can see a point of view, it is an angle from which the story is being told. So the dominant point of view here, it is first person point of view, and on some very few moments there is a use of third person point of view. Another technique which has been used in this play, it is songs and poetic language. This is especially when Ato was dreaming that dream of a girl and a boy playing in his dream and singing the song in page 28. When say, one early morning when the moon was up shining at the sun, I went to a Mina junction, and there I saw the wretched ghost going up and down, singing to himself, shall I go to Cape Coast or to Elmina? I don't know, I can't tell. That is the use of songs and the poetic language. You can see on other parts, like in page 11 and 12, page 13 and 40, page 48 and page 49, that is the last page. You can see there is also the uses of songs and the poetic language. And if you should allow me, please allow me to go on to the next part of the analysis of our play, and that is language use. Language use, Ama Ata has used a very simple and straightforward language which can be understood by any ordinary person who may come onto the reading of this book, as long as he knows or she knows English language. But under some very few cases, you can see she has used the slangs. Ama Ata Aidoo has used the slangs, especially while presenting Eulalie. Eulalie has played as an Afro-American character who had the roots traced back in Africa, but have been risen to an American culture, and so she is using slang. You see how niggas speaking, that is the way Eulalie speaks in this play. That is the use of slangs, and she uses a lot of constructives. Ain't your mama, you see ain't, you see didn't, and things constructives which are being used very much by Black American people. Now, if you go to the other kind of language which might be found in this book, there is the use of abusive language, and it is very specifically in page 48, where Eulalie insults Ato's relatives. You see, while they were arguing and Ato was persuading Eulalie to live as Africans live, you see Ato made it clear that what is the difference between black people from America and these in Africa? We are the same. You see, Eulalie insulted Ato's relatives by saying, are you comparing us, you see, Black American, us, with those narrow-minded, rotten bastards? You see, she is calling that all those very bad names to Ato's relatives. So you can see there is a use of abusive language. But out of this kind of language which has been used in this play, allow me to pass through the figures of speech which can be seen in this play. Figures of speech which can be seen, it is satire. Satire has been used to satirize, of course. You can see I like the satiric language, or maybe the satire which Escom has used at the end of the book, where he asked Ato, you see, you didn't tell us that you were gods to decide when to have kids. You see, Africans have that tendency, or maybe are used to believe that it is only God who can decide when you shall have kids. And when Ato tells his mother that him and Eulalie, they should have kids when they wished, you see, Ato satirized Ato. Escom satirized Ato by telling him that you didn't tell us that you were gods to decide when to have kids. That is satire, the use of figures of satire, figure of speech. But again, in the other part of the book can be seen the use of simile. For example, in page 15, page 25, page 30. For example, when the first and second women were speaking in page 38, one among them said, I hear she swallows money as a hen does corn. That is similar because there is a use of conjunctions while comparing two unlike things. These conjunctions are the use of as. So they were speaking about Eulalie, that she was extravagant and using very, very, very big amount of money. So they compared her to a hen. That is the use of simile. And again, in page 48, there is a sentence which says that it looks like a ghost. So the use of conjunctions to compare two unlike things, that is the use of simile. Again, there is a comparison of two unlike things or two different things by not using conjunctions. That is, for example, in a very first act, when Petu said that our white master, we welcome you, referring to Ato. So Ato has been compared to the white master. That is the use of the of metaphor. Again, in page 32, when Ato's sister was reporting Eulalie action of throwing away the snails which Escom had given them, she said that, Mother, Ato's morning sunshine has thrown away the snails that you gave them to you gave them. So Ato's morning sunshine, you can see Eulalie has been compared to the morning sunshine to Ato. That is metaphor. And again, you can see the other figure of speech which can be found in the play. There is a use of rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are the questions which don't need answers. You see, when asked, are not intended to seek answers. You see, for example, in page 45, who doesn't know that she smokes cigarettes? This is when Petu was asking Ato about Eulalie's smoking and drinking behavior. He asked Ato that, who doesn't know that she smokes a cigarette, and who has not heard that she can cut a drink as well as any man? You see, that is in page 45 in Act 4, while Petu was speaking to Ato. You see, asking him about the actions of his wife. The questions did not intended to seek for answers. Again, there is a use of euphemism. Euphemism is the use of politic languages so as to avoid speaking other harsh words. For example, we can say taboo words. For example, in page 43, you can see there is a sentence which says, what is preventing you from giving your grandmother a great grandchild before she leaves us? You see, the character there used the word before she leaves us, referring before she has died. That is euphemism, the use of more polite words so as to avoid the harsh words. But there is Exaggeration. It is sometimes called the hyperbole. Hyperbole is a presentation or maybe is exaggerating fact. You present fact, you present things beyond the factual or beyond the reality situation. You can see in page 46, Ato asked Eulalie, "I say, Eulalie, am I to wait here forever?" You see, that is exaggeration, because no one can wait for anything or anyone forever. You cannot wait for anything. You cannot wait for anything forever. You see that that is Ato exaggerated the situation, that he had waited for so long time and he was not ready to continue. Again, in page 48, Eulalie asked that, "Is this noise not enough to wake the dead?" So you see, that is again exaggeration of fact, because there is no any noise which can take or which can wake the dead from the death itself. You see, that is exaggeration. But jumping on to the other part of our analysis, I shall maybe do a little analysis of characters. The book has not more than 13 characters. I think there are 12 characters in this book. You see, not many characters, and we can talk or maybe we can discuss them in a very few minutes. For example, the first character, it is Ato Aidoo. He is a Ghanaian graduate, and Ato is educated man who got his education in America and returns to his society with an African American wife, Eulalie. You can see themes which Ato carries also goes with his characterization. He is a betrayer or a traitor, as he is portrayed as a traitor to his culture. He had betrayed his society and his culture in general. Again, he is very jealous, as you can see in Act 2. He refuses to have children just because he is afraid that his wife would love more the children than him. Again, you can see Ato, he was humble child when he was young, so he may present the theme of humbleness, but also he can be seen as an agent of change, as Ato comes back educated and wants to change the mentality of his people on the things which they are ignorant on. When going to Eulalie Aidoo, one among the very main characters, she's an Afro-American graduate who is married to Ato, and you can see she is aware of her African identity, and so that she brings about the theme of double identity. So she is an American woman, but she is aware that she is originally from Africa, and again she is extravagant. As you can see, she is a sophisticated woman, so she uses a lot of money just for very normal domestic expenditures, at the extent that her husband fails to contribute any help at home. Again, if you go further, you shall see that she's such a drunkard and a cigarette smoker. Eulalie is a heavily drunkard and a cigarette smoker, smoking something that causes some more conflicts and attracts dislikes from Ato's relatives. They hate her because she's not behaving well. Again, she is willful and rigid to change. She comes back to Africa but fails to fit in the society of her husband because she is too westernized and rigid to change. She don't, or maybe she doesn't want to change. She wants people to change and to go according to her wills. And again, you can see she's disobedient and very rude. You see, she uses abusive language and she is not well behaved woman. Again, if you go to other characters, we have Esikom, that is Ato's mother, who carries the themes of being African traditions, as she is a traditionalist. She carries a theme of love and care. As you can see, she loves and care her children. Even when they are grown up, she provides food to Ato when Ato visits them at the village. Again, she had prepared a bride price for Ato. All that is love and care. And at the end, she embraced Eulalie. She didn't chase her or fought her after she returned when she went away. So Esicom is among also the characters who can present the themes of poverty. As you can see, she is living a poor life, a house with a leaking roof, but also she presents the themes of ignorant, as she is an illiterate woman. As you can see, she even fails to pronounce the noun Eulalie. She says urere. That is, she presents the themes of illiteracy in Africa. She is very hardworking woman and sympathetic. She is traditionalist and illiterate. That is very common characterization of Esicom. Nana, this is Ato's grandmother, and she is very old, in her 80 plus years old. She is very talkative. She is Ato's and Monka's grandmother. You can see other characterization of Nana. She is traditionalist and illiterate. She objects the idea of Ato marrying the daughter of the slaves and wonders how she will narrate the story to the dead ancestors when she dies and joins them after she dies. Again, we have other characters like Monka, that is Ato's sister. She is a saucy girl, despite the fact that her mother brings her up in good manners, but Monka's behavior is still questionable. As you can see, she fails every husband or every marriage she enters. So now she is staying at home with her two children. And again, you can see she is also a traditionalist, because she supports the idea that Ato shall not have married without family's concern. Again, she is an illiterate, as she is not educated. As a result, she fails to pronounce some words like America. She said Amrika. She fails to say Eulalie. She says Hurere, and at times she calls Eulalie with strange names like Ato's morning shine, just to escape calling her Eulalie, as she cannot pronounce the name. Other characters, it is Petu. Petu is such a generous and kind uncle, as she takes care of Ato when Ato comes to greet them and welcome them. On top of that, he promises to send them some cocoyams. He says, I have brought you some cocoyams from the farm, and I shall be sending you some by and by. So he is such a kindly person, and you see he is among Ato's relatives. Other relatives or maybe other characters are Akiere, we have Mansa, we have Chroma. All these are very many characters and appear on very few scenes within play. Themes which can be seen in this book, we have a theme of bride price. This can be seen in Act 1, whereby Ato's mother had already prepared a bride price for Ato when Ato arrived from his studies. So there is a theme of bride price. Again, there is a theme of love and forced marriage. As you can see, Ato is being forced to marry a village girl to whom his family has chosen for him. Again, there is a theme of marriage and childbirth. You see, in Africa, once people are married, are expected to have children. Once you don't have a child, then your marriage got some questions and some doubts from other people. As you can see, as a result, Ato's relatives wanted to perform a ritual to Eulalie, to wash Eulalie's stomach with some herbs so that she would deliver a kid. Again, in furthermore, you can see we have a theme of African traditional food. as you can see in the play, Eskom brought snails for Ato and his wife, though Eulalie slowed them away. Again, there is superstition that is belief in supernatural power. You can see after when Ato stayed with his wife for more than 13 months without a kid, they tried to wash. They wanted to wash Eulalie's stomach so that to cut off all the superstitions or maybe the bewitching which they have, so that they would deliver or they would have children. And also you can see wife beating. Wife beating is a very minor theme, but as it happened in a play and Ato has performed it, you see it just gives us mandatory of presenting it as a theme and among the very major theme, because it is very common for African people to beat their wife more than people from other continents. Again, there is extended families and lack of birth control. You can see Ato, they have extended family where there are very many members of the family. I can say that the mentioned theme, all of them may be grouped into one basic theme, that is African tradition. Then I think you can allow me to continue with other themes which may not fall into African tradition or African traditions. These are conflicts. You can see in the book we have so many conflicts. For example, cultural conflicts between modernity and traditionalists. And also there is family conflicts. As you can see in Ato's family, they have conflict, and again Ato with Eulalie, they also enter into some conflicts just because of the failure of Eulalie to cope with African culture. There is interpersonal conflict. You can see Ato is in conflict with himself, and again on the other part of the book, Eulalie is in the conflict with himself again, whether to think or maybe fighting with his own thoughts, with her own thoughts, whether coming to Africa was right decision or not. But also you get other minor conflicts, but other themes includes identity and double identity. Identity, you can see in the book, Eulalie is aware of her identity, that although she is an American person, but she is originally from Africa. Again, there is a theme of ignorance and illiteracy. Ignorance and illiteracy can be seen mostly to Ato's relatives. All of them are almost illiterate, and they don't know about any other cultures, or maybe you can say they are ignorant to cultural practices from other communities. That shows ignorance and illiteracy. Other theme which can be seen in this book, it is disillusion and the disappointment. You see, Ato's family, especially Ato's mother, was disappointed with Ato's life after Ato completion of his studies, as he concentrated on accommodating his wife more than his family, which had hustled, which had struggled to take him to school. But again, the theme of disillusion and disappointment can be seen in Ato's marriage, where they were very optimistic that their marriage could be a helpful marriage, but they later on faces some number of things which of course faded away their happiness in their marriage. Again, we have a theme of position of woman, whereby a woman has been seen as hardworking and responsible person. As you can see, Eskom, she fights very much for her two children. You can see she fought for Ato's education, and again she is fighting with for Monka's life. Monka, Ato's sister, fails to manage her marriages, so Eskom takes care of her, even if she is a grown-up woman. But also you can see women are portrayed as slaves. You can see first and second women who are complaining about the heavy duties they perform at their homes without supports. But also woman has been portrayed as caring person. You can see Esicom, she cares to their children no matter their age. You can see Esicom hears that when he hears that Ato and his wife have came from the city, she brings them some traditional foods and giving them some little care. You see, that shows that women are caring people. But also women have been portrayed as a symbol of immorality. As you can see, Eulalie uses abusive language that shows that women are immoral creatures. Also, women have been portrayed as a sufferer from barrenness. You see, they are being buried even for the things which are not of themselves only. You can see men are being spared from many of the problems which happen in family level. The barrenness are being taken upon women. When a woman gets married, she is expected to have children immediately after a few months of marriage. When it doesn't happen so, she grieves in her heart because the society looks down upon such woman as the first woman laments in the play. So whenever a woman gets married, she is expected to bear children. If she do not do so, all the barrenness goes to her and all the laments. But also, women has been portrayed as woman has been portrayed as a sympathetic person. You can see at the very end of our book, Esicom sympathized with Eulalie, embraced her and helped her to get inside the house instead of maybe starting yelling at her, "Where have you been? You woman, you are so bad. You see, you fail to cope with our traditions." You see, but she did not do so. Again, when Ato's sister Monka failed to manage her marriages, every now and then Esicom receives her back at home. That also shows that a woman is portrayed as a sympathetic person. But also there is a theme of feminism. You can see Ato and Eulalie are agents for change. They want revolution to happen, and so that women must be treated equally as men. So that is feminism. You see, we have those two people who are feminists in our book. But also there is a theme of poverty. You can see Esicom is very poor and she is living in a house with a leakage or leaking roof. But also there is a theme of betrayal and hypocrisy. Betrayal can be seen as Ato betrayed his culture, and also he betrayed his family, especially mother, who had taken her time paying Ato's school expenses, and also she had run onto debits, whereby even Ato, even on the return of Ato failed to pay even those debits. So you can see that is betrayal and hypocrisy. You see, Ato is pretending to love his people, but he even fails to pay the debits which were caused with his education expenses. But also you can see vividly in page 35 where Esicom laments that she fought all the fight, but all the money which Ato is getting is going to Eulalie. That is hypocrisy and the betrayal. But also there is a protest. You can see in the book Ato has protested against the backward culture practices or traditional practices. Eulalie also protested against the unfair treatments or maybe forces toward practicing things which she don't like. So you see a number of protests in the book. Message we got in the from the play, it is that wife beating is not a solution to family conflicts. It should be discharged Again, the other message I can say, people should be given reproductive health education such as birth control. You can see people are ignorant of birth control issues. Again, educated people should use their education to solve the problems of their people. Again, blood price is an outdated custom. We should abandon it in our communities. Also, the last message which I can give you is we shall fight against betrayal and hypocrisy of youth against their families. But relevance of the play, it is very relevant, and under that circumstance I congratulate Ama Ata Aidoo to write the play which reflects our community. You can see in our community there is a very big traditional conflict between the modernists and the conservatives, and we both need to be educated on how to move forward. You know, the modernists shall not take bad cultural practices from other maybe communities, and also the conservatives shall not continue practicing those outdated backward culture. So we both need to be educated slowly, and so that we can blend to the new changes which are needed. And also relevance, much other relevance maybe I can provide, seeing that in our community again there are people who betray their parents and also are hypocritic. They claim to love their parents but fail to help them with anything.